Mic check. Alright, cool. Looking in OBS. Alright, cool. What's good, guys? Today I'm going to be showing you how I personally edit short form content which I post on my YouTube, Instagram and TikTok page. So if you haven't followed those platforms already, do so now. It will be put on the screen right around now. With that being said, I'm going to walk you through the whole process of how I edit long pieces of footage such as podcasts and other sources of media into short form content that is engaging based on how I edit it. So to save time, beforehand I've already selected the clips that I want to edit, which are highlighted green. In Adobe Premiere Pro, which is what I use, I make cuts of clips I want to use, select it, I select the area. These are unedited, by the way. What I do is I right click the clip and I select nest to create a sequence. Now I've already categorized what I'm going to do. I suggest you get organized if you're going to take the same steps as me. You get organized by creating folders for the specific type of media you're going to use. So for example, I have an adjustment layer. Adjustment layer is a layer that anything applied to it is placed to the footage that is below it. So we'll get into that a bit later. I use the adjustment layer for a different purpose. I've got a folder called clips to edit, which involve the nested clips here, the nested unedited clips that I'm about to edit into the short form content. I have the finished clip, so it's the finished version. We'll get to that later when I finished. I've got image resources. These are like the PNG effects I use when specific trigger words pop up to engage the viewer. I have sequences I have the raw footage. Forgot to get to that. I have the raw footage, which is essentially this. Usually this folder, when I'm editing short form content, only has one piece of footage. In this case, it's the whole footage of this, uncut and unedited. It's the exact same thing, but it's just uncut without my changes, so you can delete that. Next, we have the sequences from current edit. So usually in my edits, there's one person speaking for an amount of time, and I usually like to include jump cuts to leave out empty spaces to make the listening experience more pleasurable. Now when doing this, you'll see plenty of cuts on the screen. Now this isn't as good as an example, but here it can get very confusing. So what I do is I select the multiple clips, providing that it is the same person still speaking, and I nest it so it looks like one uniform clip, and it's very easy to operate and work with. But we don't need to do that now because this happens when I go into the clips to edit. Then finally we've got sound resources, and this is just a background song that plays. It's usually peaceful, while the music played throughout the short form content sets the mood of the edit I'm going to do. And finally we have subtitles. Now these are preset subtitles that I've created from my other project, so to save time rather than configuring all the settings again, what I do is I just open the sequence by double clicking, and how I like to make my subtitles is they have a pop-up jump effect looking like this, and I really like that style, so I'll get into how I do that when I begin editing. So what I can do now is I can close this panel here because I've already selected the clips I want, which are highlighted green, which are nested and are found in clips to edit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to close this panel, I'm going to close the subtitle panel, and I'm going to edit this clip first. Now as you can see, it's just one video layer and one audio layer. It will look drastically different by the end, but what I'm going to do first is adjust the formatting. Now as this is short form content that is most likely going to be displayed on a mobile device, I need to change the sequence settings as how this is formatted, because this is formatted as a YouTube video. As I downloaded this in 720p, it will be 1280 by 720 respectively, horizontal and vertical measurements. So what I need to do to change the sequence settings is to right click, words, right click, R's clip 1, and navigate to sequence settings. Now from here, what I can do is have preset edits, which I'm not going to do as custom, and I can set the frame rate. This isn't as important, but as I run a powerful PC and I want my views experience to be very good, I switch this to 60 frames per second. Now as this is going to be displayed on a mobile device, what I want to do is make sure that the horizontal width is 1080 and the vertical is 1920. Now when I submit these options, you're going to see that it's going to take the shape of a mobile phone, which is its intended purpose. It gives me a pre-warning saying that's going to happen to all other clips in the sequence. I'm fine with that. And look how it's displayed. Now you're going to see a bit of black video, which means if I was to put a layer below this, it would appear, and essentially nothing really appears when this is exported. I don't want that. I want this individual, R's event specifically, to fill out this whole frame. So what we're going to do first is identify all the instances where R's event appears, because I know during my clip there may be different people popping up and their heads may not be in the same position, so I need to readjust this accordingly. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to zoom into my footage, I'm going to scrub through and identify areas where he and other people are talking. So I'm going to do that now. So for this clip specifically, there was no other speakers on the screen, so what I'm free to do is enlarge this at my choice. So what I do is I navigate to Effects Controls, and we're not keyframing anything, nothing's being animated yet. So when I change the scale, this changes the scale for the whole clip. So what I want to do is I want to enlarge this, and to help, I should have covered this before. I have safe margins. Now the inner margin, which displays 80% of the screen, is used to verify that text is readable. Now you can have it outside, but just to ensure that it is 100% readable, you should have it within this space. And the outer box is the action area, which covers 90% of the footage. This is where you want most of the action occurring. Now, as I said, it can occur outside, but it's best if it's within, as your viewer's attention is most likely going to be there. To enable the safe margins option, click on the settings box in the program monitor, which is where I'm viewing the footage. Click the settings tool, navigate to safe margins and select it. Now what I want to do is enlarge this so that R's events' head, the top of his head, is at the top of the 90% box, the 90% action box, the action footage. So I'm going to enlarge this. I'm going to adjust its position. This is the y-axis position, this is the x-axis position, and I want it to be centered because he doesn't move around as much. See, this works for me. Be careful not to get any black video in it, that's why you may need to enlarge more. That's the only issue with working with mobile footage. Be careful of how much you adjust it by. So I believe this is decent. It looks very different to the wide footage. Now I'm going to play this with no sound and just scrub through. His head is mostly centered. That's good, and that's where we want it because this is where the majority of the action is going to take place. Now for certain clips, what I like to do, this comes on later in the edit, but I like to enlarge it, make it more dynamic. If they say quite harsh sounding trigger words, I like to zoom in, it entices you towards them. Depends the context of the clip. I don't believe I'm doing it for this clip, but we'll see as the edit transpires. So first, what I do, I funnily enough open up old project because I don't want to go through the whole process again, and I gather my watermark from my old footage. So what I'm going to do, this is a quick example of what a finished clip would look like in my case, but it looks very complicated, but we'll cover those steps. So what I'm going to do for my old clip is get my custom made watermark, which is just a text of my name and my @ you should follow me by the way. What I do is I add a new track to prevent overwriting, and I added a new video and audio track respectively. This will be for the music, and there will be around 3 to 4 more layers. So what I want to do is deselect this active layer and select version 2 and paste my watermark over it. From this I can shorten it to the length of my clip, which will adjust, by the way, will just pin everything in motion. I'm going to move this up a good few layers because this will be the space for the adjustment layer, which I'm going to edit. This will be the space for the adjustment layer. Then above that will be the space for the subtitle text, and above that will be the space for my images that I'll add when there are trigger words. So I've already pre-positioned my watermark. It's quite small, but as you can see when I zoom in, my watermark is just above the 80%, and it will be below how I've pre-positioned my subtitles. It's here, so it's noticeable, and no one can steal my footage without me taking credit for it. Though it's not my footage, it's my edit, but you get what I'm saying. Now, first, it's optional, but I like to apply color adjustments to make it more vibrant. A good example of this is in this clip. I'm going to mute it because I don't want to hear background audio. But in this clip, for example, let me open it, what it is. Navigation. Oh, no man, I don't have to do all that. For this clip, there's a active color adjustment layer on, and it looks nice and vibrant until I disable it. Look how dim and glum that clip looks. With all respect to the original footage, I respect what they've done, no offense, but for me to enhance it, I thought it was appropriate to apply a color correction adjustment layer. It looks much more vibrant, so I like that. This is optional though, you don't always have to do it. I like doing it, I'm getting used to doing it. So in this case, this clip looks fine, but if I was to adjust it, I'd just make it warm. But for the purpose of not overcomplicating things, I'm going to leave it out because I felt the other clips I edited needed it, this doesn't. So you can leave that out. So what you want to do, I'm going to need the audio on for this. I'm probably going to make the edit faster over this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrub through this footage and make appropriate cuts, to make jump cuts to avoid where he's not speaking for a brief period of time, to make everything flow cohesively. So I'll get back to you after that process is done. Now as a comparison, I've left my watermark at the original length of the clip I selected, and after making appropriate jump cuts, we can see that we've shortened the footage. Now from my standpoint, that is amazing, because when you're subtitling, I like to subtitle every word so my viewer is not confused, but a good few seconds shaved off is just a breath of fresh air for an editor like me. It's a simple process, but it saves a lot of time. So what I like to do, I like to run through the clips. I'm just going to do that again just to double check. I'll be back with you.
I also believe money is just numbers on a screen. Money is literally just fake, it's an illusion in my opinion. Money comes and goes. That's why I don't hesitate on investing in myself, because I know money will always come back to me.
So what I like to do, as this will most likely be displayed on, well, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, what they like to do for their shorts, their short form content, is they like to loop it. So to create that smooth transition, what I begin doing is fading the clip out to in for the beginning and in to out. So editor's transmission, ignore that. What I'm trying to say in basic layman's terms is that the video becomes visible in the beginning and then the video fades out. Ignore what I said, fade out to in to out, because that has different interpretation and meaning. But we'll continue with the video. You can do this by changing the opacity, or you can apply a dissolve effect here, but I like doing this manually. So I will keyframe in a few frames. This is ideally when they start talking, because you kind of don't want that effect while they're talking. You want full visibility of and audioability. I don't think that's a word, but you want full visibility of what they're saying. So I like to keyframe it in just before they're about to speak. So here we've set a keyframe in, that's at 100%, and now we want to bring it all the way back to the beginning where it's 0. Now if we play that,
I also believe
it fades in very quickly, and we want to do the same for the end. So we just want to keyframe back, because this is the end, like if I apply a keyframe here, nothing's happening, but if we go back, it's still in this clip. That's what we want. Now I want to keyframe this as the end. We're not going to adjust it yet, we just want to know where it's at. Otherwise, if I set this to 0 now, all the way from the beginning of this clip to here, it will fade out very slowly, and that's very annoying. I want clear visibility of what I'm doing from where I want to fade out. So ideally, I want to fade out after you stop talking, but if clips are too short, you may have to fade out whilst they're still talking, but at the very last instance. So I'm going to keyframe back a few frames. He stopped speaking a while ago, but you don't want it to be too long. So I've keyframed here, and I'll set this to 0. I will just play half of this clip.
money will always come back to me.
That was a nice fade. Now if you were to loop it, and you can enable looping the playback footage by going to the plus here panel in the product excuse me, by going to the plus button in the program monitor and clicking the symbol with a cut off rectangle with a play button. This is the loop playback. As I've already have it here, I'm going to enable it. When you enable it, should be blue. What I'm going to do, I'm going to play it just before the opacity effect I just added, and watch it loop back to video and see how smooth the transition is.
Come back to me. I also believe.
Look how smooth that is. That's what I want, and that's what I want my viewers to experience and see. Now we can get to adding the subtitles. Now there's two ways of doing this, in the sense that you already have your subtitles or establish your subtitles, but what I'm going to do is run through how I make my subtitles first. I'm not going to go through it from scratch. I'm just going to describe it as best as I can. So as I already have a preset made here, I'm just going to copy one of them and paste it here. So with my subtitles, first of all, notice how I can change the color, the size of it, the font, everything. I can change it in this panel called text. To adjust the position, motion, everything, you want to scroll below that and go to transform. Now I like my text to have a pop-up effect, quite vibrant. Now the text on the screen doesn't match what it's about to say. I adjust that manually, but for the purpose of this, I'm just going to leave it how it is now. Now I like my text to pop in, so my ideal text size, how it remains throughout the clip, is 100. I want it to have a pop out effect. So what I do is, first of all, identify what size you want the text to be throughout the footage, and then from that you can work out how far you want it to pop out. So as I said, I want my text scale to be 100 here, but when it pops out, initially we start with a frame that's much smaller than it. So if it's 100 here, you want it smaller here. So if in my instance it's 80, then 3 or 4 keyframes later, I make this drastically bigger than what it's going to be set out to be in the future. In this case, we jump from 80 to 125 to create the bounce effect. Then from 125, we scale it back down to the size I initially wanted in the beginning, which is 100. So it creates the effect of bouncing out, as you can see here. And I'll play it again. Now ignore this position keyframe that was just turned on, but I never adjust the position of the text as already in a set position that I've identified here. Now this I'll get into later, or you'll see in action later, but I'll actually describe it now. So when the person starts speaking for an amount of time, or the camera angle changes and shifts to a different person, to avoid confusion of who's talking, what I like to do is, I like the same way the text is to bounce in, I like it to, in a sense, bounce out. So to do this, we just reverse the process. So we have the idle text here, the idle size of the text here. Then we go to the instance where it's about to pop out, so we still have the same idle size. It enlarges to the same previous enlarged value, in this case it's 125. And instead of it going back to 80, we want the text to completely disappear, so it will go back to 0 as if it never existed. So to view this effect in its entirety,
I also believe money.
Watch how it bounces out.
I believe money.
As I said, the text doesn't correlate to what's on the screen, but we're going to adjust that. So entering the subtitles, it is not tedious, but it is a long process, but it's very rewarding, as without my subtitles, people wouldn't watch. Like, I don't know how to describe it, to be honest, but I like the subtitles. It adds something new. Most people can't be asked to do it, but I can. It's nice, and it's just being attentive to what's being said and typing it out. Now, what I like to do, before even messing with the colors, I just like to type out what I hear based on the position where it's at and where someone's saying it. And this is where the text margins comes in useful, because if it overlaps majorly, I just go to a new text identity. I don't let it overlap. What I like to do is, I like to type everything in white first, and then I color correct the words that I think stand out or attract the viewer's most attention. Words like can, have to, or words that are not used in everyday conversation. Something that you're supposed to pick up is of importance, what the speaker's trying to enhance. So I'm going to go through that now, go through this whole clip, add appropriate subtitles, and I'll return when I'm done to explain the next few processes. Now that my whole process of subtitling is not done, but I've outlined the subtitles, I'm going to render the effect, I'm going to render this clip from in to out so it plays smoothly as to what it looks like in its base form. So allow this to render.
I also believe money is just numbers on a screen. Money is literally just fake, it's an illusion in my opinion. Money comes and goes. That's why I don't hesitate on investing in myself, because I know money will always come back to me.
Now, as I synced the clip, I personally do this, so I think it makes a nice touch. But as the clip fades in, the text should fade in as well. Look how clean that looks in comparison to what is at the end, where even though the clip fades out, the text doesn't. Look how kind of, in my opinion, grubby this looks. Now, obviously you're going to replicate the same thing, and you can apply the same effect to it at the beginning, but identify where you keyframed your opacities for the clip. And what I want to do is where it was at 100, I click on the text and I change its opacity, identify where it's at 100. Now as the end result is the same, meaning that opacity is 0 at the end of the clip, all we need to really focus on is specifically where opacity was 100, in this case it's here, and we can navigate to the end of the clip and make this 0 to apply the same effect as the text fading out.
Come back to me.
Look how clean that looks. So now what's important, in my case, is highlighting words that stand out. Now the colors I typically use are red to point out something negative, or it just has a profound impact. Sometimes they both coexist, but most of the time it's to outline an impactful word, or a word that really stands out. Green is used to highlight something positive, and again something that stands out. Most of the time I use it for something positive. I use blue when representing men, pink representing women, and sort of goldish yellow to represent something heavenly and holy. So in this case I'm going to run through and I'm going to highlight words which I believe align with those factors and the colours they'll represent. So I'm going to adjust this now. So I'm going to redden the sequence from in to out again, and then you'll be able to understand what I mean when I set the colours.
I also believe money is just numbers on a screen. Money is literally just fake, it's an illusion in my opinion. Money comes and goes. That's why I don't hesitate on investing in myself, because I know money will always come back to me.
Now look how nice that looks. What I do for my text, it is optional, but I like it. I apply a black drop shadow to this. Now if we enhance it a bit more, it may not be clear. It will be clear on a mobile device. When you see this video on my social medias, check them out and follow them. If I enlarge this, you can see a tiny indication of a shadow which is not there when I remove this. I don't think this is selected for the specific clip I'm on. So let me show you the stark difference in between removing the drop shadow. So here it is with the drop shadow, here it is without. I personally don't think it looks as nice, which is why I incorporate a drop shadow. Now I don't incorporate it for my watermark, it doesn't need that, the watermark stays there permanently. But as this text is popping up, it creates the appearance of, as it pops out, it generates a shadow, though the shadow's there the whole time, but I like it. My text also has a stroke, as without it, it just looks very bare and naked. I don't like that. So the stroke does enhance it. And the fill color, my default fill color is white. It's very visible and easy to see. So now I'm going to zoom out and have it fit on the screen. So what we have left is adding the correct audio to match the tone of the clip, and then we also have the images as well. Now the more appropriate stuff to work with, no, that's not what I have left to do. I don't know how I'm going to edit this video, but I've said a lot of stuff, but I just want to go through the essentials and basics. What's also important is adjusting the sound level. You don't want the audio to be too loud or too quiet, so on an appropriate level. As I'm playing it through my headphones, it differs, the experience differences, the experience differs through watching it on the phone. So I'm going to play this through now briefly and just adjust the audio appropriately.
I also believe money is just...
In this case, I think this is too loud, so I'm going to do that is halt and select. As these clips I link, I don't want to select both, I just want to select the audio. I'm going to right click, go to audio gain, and I'm going to set the audio gain to something around -5 decibels. This will quieten the clip a bit and make it a bit more Nicer to hear.
numbers on the screen. Money is literally just fake.
Now I think this is too quiet, so I'm just gonna raise the audio a bit to -2. I don't want it blaring.
Fake is an illusion in my opinion. Money comes and goes.
That's too loud. Okay, we need to find the set level. We're gonna be here less like all day. -4. Now, I want to find good non-copyright audio so I can get. Yeah, I need to find non-copyright audio. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take to YouTube and get a lo-fi hip-hop beat, and I shall return in a few seconds. In this case, I found my audio that I want to use, and I'm going to use this audio and adjust it accordingly. So I'm going to cut it, going to remove the excess.
I also believe.
Now this is too loud as this is background music. I want it a lot quieter than the audio, so we're going to do same process we did for the clip. Audio gain, set audio to, and I'm going to put -20 decibels.
Money is just numbers on the screen. Money.
Now you still want it to be audio. In this case, it's still surprisingly too loud, so I'm going to set it to -25.
Money is literally just fake. It's an illusion in my opinion. Money comes and goes. That's why I don't hesitate on investing in myself, because I know money will always come back to me. I also believe money is just numbers on the screen. Money is literally just.
Now, all that's left to do is apply appropriate images to specific trigger words or for specific things he says. Now I'm going to run through the clip, and I'm going to place the appropriate images at the trigger words that I think are appropriate. So I'll get back to you.
I also believe money. I also believe.
Now I've identified which images I'm going to use to highlight trigger words. Now I'm going to play this back muted to just avoid playback. But one is money. And I'm going to get the appropriate media I have for this. Sometimes it's serious, sometimes it's funny, but you need to retain, engage. So what I want to do is I have this GIF of Mr. Krabs showering money to represent money. Obviously it's not positioned correctly or just after. Right now it's just displaying it all on the sequence. Then I have numbers on the screen. For that I have the GIF of the matrix. The matrix numbers cascading down. I next have a funny image of a fake Adidas brand. We're going to scale it accordingly, don't worry. The issue is I may have to adjust it now because I can't see the subtitles below it. So we have fake, and I also have illusion. Now I cannot stress the importance of labeling your files and clips appropriately, as you have two lackadaisical with this. I don't know why I use such a big word. If you're nonchalant about this, it's very hard. Now I find this very easy because I've organized my clips. I suggest you do the same. And I've got one for hesitation, which I've labeled paranoid. Kind of falls under the same thing. And I finally got one for investing. Now we're going to scale these. We're going to scale these appropriately, but before I do that, this is optional. But I made a preset edit of drop shadows to apply to my image, and I believe it makes the world of difference. So I'm going to drag and drop it onto here. I'm going to drag it and drop it onto everyone, in fact, and then I'll display the settings if you want to copy it. So now that the drop shadow is applied to every effect, I'm going to go over the settings and then I'm going to position it properly. So the shadow color is black, the opacity is 50%, the direction of the shadow is 135 degrees to north, so think of it as bearings. This is north and 135 degrees is somewhere along here. We got the distance the shadow expands over. I keep that as 35. I like how it is. The shadow's prevalent, but it's not overwhelming. We got the softness of it, which is at 100. I believe I just left it how it was, and then this is unticked because shadow only. I'm not going to see the image, and we want to see the image. So you may have been wondering, why is this line here? Well, this is to put where to rest my images so that they're above the subtitles and not too close, and also that you have a view of the person who's speaking face and also my image. So the scale of this image is calm, we don't have to adjust that. What I'm going to do is change the Y value of this image and bring it down so it matches the blue line. Now for me, in my case, these numbers always fall in between the 1200 range and 1300 range. So I know what I'm doing, so I'm just gonna go through this and adjust accordingly, and then I'm also going to do the animation effects I do with the text. That just enhances experience. So right now I'm just gonna adjust them so that they're all resting on this blue line. So now, as all the images are in the correct position, what I'm going to do is make it have the same pop-up effect as the text. Now to do this, we just replicate the keyframes that the text has. I key this, I make 3 keyframes, 4 keyframes apart, 3 to 4 keyframes apart. Then I go to the end of the clip, keyframe where it should be 0, keyframe where it maintains. Now what I didn't go into before was how to create a smooth animation. So when it's diamond shaped like this, it's linear. I haven't applied the scales yet, but it's linear. So let me make the adjustments. Then I'll go between the difference of making it smooth to what it is now, linear. So this is it smooth. It doesn't look as nice. Though it has the same bounce, I know it's not the same. So in order to make it animated, we need to first click the drop down menu so you can visually see what's going on of this. Now as you can see, it's linear, it's a straight line. I don't want it to be like that. I want it to have a sort of bounce, more curvy, more flow state type. So with this first keyframe, I want to right click it and click ease out. Notice how this line curves. This is the velocity. Now as it starts, it gets faster, then eases out here. Now it doesn't stop here, I want it to continue sort of like this, creating a sideways S. Now what you want to do for this keyframe is not ease in, you want to hold it, so it holds the conditions of this 100 so it doesn't shift in between. I want to ease out here and I want to ease in here, so now it looks like this. If I just want to replay here, all I want it to do is just replay this. Look at that nice smooth bounce, and I want to replicate this for all the other clips. So I'm going to go through that process now. Now that I've completed the image animations, I am practically finished, and I'm going to watch through it just in case I haven't missed anything. So here you go.
I also believe money is just numbers on a screen. Money is literally just fake, it's an illusion in my opinion. Money comes and goes. That's why I don't hesitate on investing in myself, because I know money will always come back to me.
And that's how I edit my short form content. In the future, I may go into videos in more detail because this is not an Adobe Premiere Pro tutorial per se. I'm speaking coming from our understanding on it. So if further elaboration is needed on the technical terms and what I do, basically just the advanced stuff of how I do it and running you through it, then leave a suggestion in the comments to what other types of tutorials you want to see. But coming from me, that's all I have to show. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you found this informative and interesting. Share a video to the friend. Follow my social medias, my Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe to my YouTube while you're at it. But that's it from me, and peace guys, have a good one.